Welcome to the Cover One Matchup Show, where we try to take you a little bit behind the scenes into each of the upcoming matchups of the Buffalo Bills' opponents throughout the season. This week, we're going to start with Eric Turner, looking at the Bills' run defense and where they can maybe make some adjustments on where the Rams took advantage of last week and how they can try to be prepared for this monster O-line of the Raiders and Josh Jacobs. Let's take a look at the film.
Sean McVay and the Rams offense really exposed the Bills' run defense last week. The Bills surrendered 167 yards on 32 carries. The Rams pitched in 2 touchdowns on the ground. And he really laid a blueprint on how to beat the Bills' run defense. And that was through the use of motion prior to the snap, shifts prior to the snap, and then split flow from the tight end coming across the formation on those sift blocks on zone runs. That's something that the Bills struggled with against the Eagles last year. That's something we saw a lot of from the Saints game a couple years ago, where the Saints hung a couple hundred yards on the ground against the Bills' run defense. It's something that always comes up against the Bills' run defense from time to time. And the other thing that showed up was how the Rams attacked the weak side bubble in the Bills' 4-3 over front. And it's something we're going to take a look at in the film, and we're going to show you why the pre to post snap processing was delayed a little bit from Taron Johnson, Tremaine Edmonds, and Matt Milano. It's something that the Bills defense has to tighten up right now, early in the season, because if they don't, we're going to see these issues from week to week. So without further ado, let's jump into the film. On this first play, the Rams gained 7 yards on a simple outside zone weak run. After the motion and the adjustment by the Bills' second level defenders, you're going to see the Rams attack what is often referred to as a weak side bubble.
This is an over front, and a lot of teams like to run to the bubble. And the bubble is to the side of the nose, the one technique in between the 1 and the 5, which you can see as the guards are blocking down that big hole where the red dot is. That's considered the bubble. I would have made a gone call in this to take away the blocking angles of the guard so that he wouldn't have been able to climb the loop as easily. He would have been the nose would have been playing through the guard.
Right.
On this specific play, giving Luke a little bit more freedom to run to the ball and maybe even run through that gap and make a tackle for loss.
One of the things that offenses do when you play a lot of over defense like Carolina did, and what you guys are going to do is what? They're going to try to run to the weak side, right, Zoe?
Right. They try to, run back weak, run to the bubble, as we mentioned earlier, and that's the space between the nose and the defensive end, especially when you have a wide technique like on this backside, which you probably showed on tape with this defensive end 76, I'm guessing.
Yep.
You just create more space, and you make it hard for the wheel to set the edge when you have a big gap like that, especially on a guard that's coming downhill on you. On this specific play, the nose does a great job of penetration and actually knocking off the second puller, number 82, and allows the young man to make a great play in the backfield, keeping him clean, 56, and getting a good hit on the guy. But we call this a joker, which is just a counter weak.
Similar to the first clip that you saw between the Panthers and Saints, the undersized nose tackle, Quentin Jefferson, gets bounced over to the center by the guard. Now both guards climb the wall off Tremaine Edmonds. This puts a lot of pressure on Taron Johnson to do what linebackers are taught to do, and that's make things right. The Rams get movement on Edmonds, and Johnson isn't able to bring down the runner until he gains 7 yards. Anytime the Rams tried to play the Bills straight up with no shifting or motion, the linebackers and defensive backs pinned their ears back and played downhill. And once McVay realized that, he changed up his entire strategy. The Rams get 12 yards on this jet action inside zone run. They send a receiver across the formation, and that player is not only a threat to run the ball, but he affects the Bills' run gaps. As he goes across the formation, the defense has to adjust their gap responsibilities because they are essentially losing a gap on the left side and gaining one to the right if the ball isn't handed off. On top of that, there's another layer of processing that occurs as a tight end comes across the formation post-snap as a sift blocker. So now the Bills defense has to adjust post-snap to the gap being added to the left side. With the Bills in a too-deep safety look, they are short-handed or -1 to the weak side bubble, and big nickel defender Dean Marlowe can't even come downhill because he's worried about the play-action pass. All of this leads to a gaping hole on the left side of the defense, and it's a strategy we saw used by McVay several times in the game. Here the Bills linebackers do a better job of sorting the gaps, but the Rams still get 4 yards, this time to the front side of the play. Once again, the jet action from left to right, so the Bills bump a gap to their right. On the snap, the tight end executes the sift block, but you can see Milano executing the back call. This lets Edmonds know that the tight end is coming across the formation and to bump back a gap. They do, but the receiver that came across the formation pulls Jordan Poyer out of the gap he is supposed to take over from Milano. Luckily, Harrison Phillips has his helmet in the hole to slow down the running back's read and decision. McVay then goes back to attacking the bubble. He aligns the tight end to the top of the screen so that the Bills set their 3 technique of their overfront into the boundary, then shifts him to the bottom into a trip set and runs zone run at the bubble. But take notice of the Bills' defensive structure. They are in a soft, too high look, so the defensive backs are not part of the run fit. With a tight, condensed set by the Rams, the Bills have to defend 9 gaps in and around the tackle box, but they only have 7 defenders near the line of scrimmage. On the snap, the tight end sift blocks across the formation, and the receiver executes an orbit track behind the QB. So the Bills have to adjust their gap responsibilities. So the second level defenders execute their back calls and fire downhill. Taron Johnson fired his gun into the run gap, but is walled off by Kupp, and White is not in position to help in the run fit, and the Rams rattle off 14 yards. The Bills allowed 77 yards on 16 carries in the first half, and McVay wasted no time testing Leslie Frazier's halftime adjustments. On the first run of the second half, McVay goes back to his inside zone run. The defense adjusts to the jet action prior to the snap and quickly triggers as the tight end sift blocks across the formation. Milano's gap changes from the frontside D gap to the frontside A gap, and Edmonds shifts from the frontside A gap to the backside B gap. Milano wraps up the runner, and Edmonds lays a lick. McVay adds another level by adding a counter run concept in the second half. He gets the Bills to set their overfront to the field, but then shifts the offense and eventually settles into a 2x2 set. The Bills once again show quarters coverage with their secondary often soft. All of this plays right into McVay's master plan. He once again attacks the weak side bubble, but he does it with a counter run that looks like they're just setting up the inside zone run they executed all day. The Rams send jet action across the formation, so the Bills bump to their right. On the snap, Cooper Kupp is the split flow across the formation, not a tight end. The running back uses similar footwork to an inside zone run by using an open step to his left before crossing over and aiming for the tight end. The second level defenders take their read steps downhill and get caught too far into the line of scrimmage. Their back calls are delayed a second because they thought it was a normal inside zone run. Now their angles are off, and the Rams have leverage out wide. White can only contain the run inside, but there's no inside-out pursuit from Taron Johnson and A.J. Epinesa because they got caught inside. If John Gruden and the Raiders offense add in a little of that eye candy, a little of that shifting, pre-snap motion, making the Bills adjust prior to the snap, but also making them adjust post-snap with sift blocking, guys coming across the formation against the grain of the actual run play, it could really cause some damage to the Bills' run defense if they haven't tightened it up this week in practice. So that's something to keep an eye on, because if Josh Jacobs gets going on some power runs, on some of those outside zone runs, and they use that split flow, next thing you know, you have Darren Waller faking that sift block and getting out into the flats or getting up the sideline. And that's where the Raiders could really hang their hat this weekend against the Bills.
All right, in this next segment, Eric's going to take us through some of the early down success and how we can set up third and longs against this Raiders offense that may not look intimidating at first glance, but has a few more threats than you may realize. Let's take a look.
The Raiders offense on paper probably doesn't really scare many Bills fans, but believe it or not, they're a very good situational offense. On third downs, the Raiders are ranked second in Football Outsiders' DVOA metric. According to Sharp Football Stats, they are ranked fourth in success rate on that down. And that's because John Gruden and his staff do a great job of keeping Derek Carr in manageable third downs. That's why early down success has to go in the Bills' favor, and that starts with containing their star running back Josh Jacobs. Slowing him down on early downs, something the Bills struggled to do against the Rams last week, will make a major impact on third down. On third down so far this season, Carr has averaged 6 yards to go. That is the fourth lowest yards to go on third down behind the Dolphins, Rams, and Titans. On third down, Carr loves to target his tight end Darren Waller, and why wouldn't he? The guy is a stud. According to Sharp Football Stats, Carr targets his tight ends 41% of the time on third down, the most in the league by 7%. Carr only looks to his receivers 41% of the time, the least in the NFL. And given the injuries to Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs, the market share of targets on these crucial downs will likely go to Waller. Waller has 7 targets on third downs and has converted first downs 80% of the time. 4 of those targets came on 3rd and 1 to 3, 1 on 3rd and 4 to 6, and 2 on 3rd and 7 yards or more. He has yet to convert a first down on 3rd and 4 yards or more, doing most of his damage when the Raiders are in 3rd and short. That isn't to say that he isn't capable of doing it though. Winning on early downs will allow the Bills to throw some of their exotic looks at Carr and hopefully get pressure on him, something not many teams have done thus far. Carr has only been under pressure 25.9% of his dropbacks, which is the 8th lowest among QBs with 20% of the dropbacks. Getting Carr into 3rd and longs is the key, something he's only faced 9 times this season. This will put the depleted Raiders offense under pressure to make some big plays on money downs in Vegas.
Going into our presenting sponsor, Uncle Jumbo's, and our player spotlight for tonight, it's going to be a big piece of being able to protect Josh Allen in this game. I wanted to touch on the interior line rotation and what we've seen so far. We'll be honest with you guys, Aaron and Eric and I were a little confused when we saw the announcement coming out of Cody Ford starting at left tackle and Quentin Spain sitting and Brian Winters getting more snaps. And that's not exactly what looked like it made the most sense going into the game. And I don't know that anyone was going to have a great game against Aaron Donald, but it looked like an odd decision. So I have to assume that it was reading into and preparing for Feliciano coming back and wanting to see where Cody Ford might fit, if they could do that, or if there was an option on the left side, if Feliciano could be on the right. How did you interpret that move? And it seemed odd to me.
Something's fishy. Yeah. I'm not going to get into any type of speculation that people are, but it just seemed fishy to me. We didn't see any sense of it coming our way, and then you have that type of move happen. They're saying it's specific to the game plan, and I've said it on this show that I'm not against Winters. Like, I think there's a lot of people out there that want him off the team immediately. I'm not that guy. He's fine. I don't know what they saw that made them think that that's a better option than Spain so far. Like, and I'm not big on, I think there's a lot of hype for Spain. I think he's fine. Also, I think some of his stuff was inflated about not giving up sacks on the quarterback. Sure. I think that's a little bit inflated. I don't know that he's the run blocker that people think he is. I think he's a fine guy that can play on this line and play on probably any line in the league.
I think he's slightly better than Cody Ford and Brian Winters.
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that either. So something's fishy about that. Ultimately, can't wait for Feliciano to come back, and I can't believe that a year ago when we got Feliciano, you would never have heard those words uttered out of my mouth. And I hope that when he does come back, he plays to the level he did last year, because they really do need
his energy
on the
is
interior line.
It's just infectious. His approach to the game, and you can hear. I think that it's funny. McDermott has talked about how hard it is to keep him off of the sideline and out of practice. Like, he wants to be involved in everything. I think it's really exciting, and other people brought it up here in the chat. For anyone who didn't see, Quentin Spain did delete everything off of his Twitter account. I don't know. I hope that's just an emotional frustration with not playing. And honestly, I think if you look, that might be the first game he's been benched in like 5 years. Yeah. I think he started like every game for a 5-year stretch. And that's probably a hard pill to swallow. That regardless of how Bobby Johnson explained it to him, telling him, hey, we're going to sit you down this game while you're healthy. No one's told him that, honestly, probably since his undrafted rookie season.
And that's where I'm hung up on. It's not so much that they went another direction play-wise. It's that they didn't even try to keep him and utilize him, right? Like, just to not play a guy, especially when you're facing that type of possible interior pressure, to have all hands on deck and use all the hands on deck.
When you had rotated the first 2 games.
You've been rotating this whole time. Like, you've done it. You got back to last season on an interior line, but you rotated a year ago. So I would have preferred to see all hands on deck and play out the game as it goes. So that's what really stands out as something fishy to me. I'm not going to say that there's going to be a trade happening or what. We don't know. Maybe something happened in practice. Maybe something happened in the meetings and there was some other thing going on behind the scenes. This team's not going to let you know.
Correct.
Right? Like you're not going to get it out of the media. No sources are going to say something happened behind the scenes. We're not going to get any of that. This could have been disciplinary for all we know. We don't know. They're going to keep that all bottled up tight. So hopefully, though, going forward, we don't see that type of thing, because I don't like what we're getting out of the interior line play very much this year. And this is a game also, when we go back to this game, I think this is a game where they can really establish the run, which we haven't seen a lot. I think there's going to be some of those opportunities here as well, because teams are starting to play back now that Josh Allen's proving that he can put the deep ball together and he can put some of these big yard passes. They don't want to get beat deep, just like the Bills don't. So I think there's going to be opportunities for the run game, but that's going to start with really good interior line play. And I don't know that I've seen enough of it to say we can lean on that.
Yeah, and so we've seen certainly other people speculate that this means there's a trade. I will say, I think there is something that occurred that we don't know about. How serious that is, how big of a deal it is, what it is, we don't know. But I do think there's probably something we don't know about. If for some reason Michael Lucas is commenting here about they could get out of it, he did sign a 3-year deal, but honestly, it was more like a 1-year deal, and then let's see. Next year, there's less than $1 million in dead cap hit to move on from him. If they traded him this year, it basically would net out. They would take about $2.9 million in dead cap, $2.85 million in cap savings. So they wouldn't gain any money by trading him, but it wouldn't be painful. So if for some reason, if there was something a little bit more serious that went on that they needed to trade him per se, they could without any real pain. It just wouldn't save them any money to do it. So, we'll see where that goes. And I think we'll know that quickly.
I also think Bills fans are maybe overestimating what his value in a trade would be, because it would have to be him plus picks to get anything that you're going to get excited for, in my opinion. And I like Spain. This is not an indictment of him, but
no.
A middle of the road interior lineman is not going to, you're not going to get a straight up for Ertz in that deal.
Like I would expect like the Wyatt Teller trade of getting a 5th and a 6th round pick. Maybe because it's Spain, it's a 4th and a 5th instead of a 5th.
Sure,
and a 6th.
Maybe a team's desperate enough to up it a little bit.
Correct. So I think some people were throwing that out there because the Eagles have had like 5 offensive linemen hurt. For anybody who's not aware, they just got announced Dallas Goedert broke his ankle. So the Eagles are not trading Zach Ertz, just an FYI. They just lost.
No, they just took your boy Akeem Butler.
Yeah,
and are making him a tight end. There you go, man.
Yeah, they literally claimed Akeem Butler off the Carolina Panthers practice squad, named him active, and said in the announcement, "Oh yeah, he's a tight end." For anybody who doesn't follow, Daniel Dopp is a guy who's a writer for ESPN and hosts the fantasy show with Matthew Berry. He wrote and said, "This is literally a Madden move. This is what you do in Madden. You take the big, slow wide receiver and say, nope, he's a tight end now, and I'm moving him over here."
Although,
to be fair, the Eagles just made a Madden move midseason.
To be fair, we wanted to see that happen with Duke Williams and just didn't. So they could have taken Duke.
They had the balls to actually do it. Yeah, they actually had the guts to make the Madden move and do it. So anyways, our Uncle Jumbo's player spotlight tonight is that interior line. I think we're going to know very quickly if something serious or something else is going on with Quinton Spain, because what we saw in the game, they should go back to Spain. From a player standpoint, from an on-the-field standpoint, Quinton Spain should be back in the game on the field this week. And if he's not, I'm going to speculate that means there's something we don't know about that's going on, because neither Winters nor Ford earned more playing time in that game. And that you always have to take a huge grain of salt that Aaron Donald was a piece of that. But even in the snaps that weren't against Aaron Donald, they didn't look awesome. So we'll see where that goes. And that interior offensive line is going to be a big piece of this discussion going forward as far as what else we need to watch out for.
I've been pounding the table for how long, Sterling?
For
our
years,
first show we ever did, I was pounding the table for Josh Allen, right? The grit, the size, the arm strength, all that stuff, right? But you got to see the guy has the chip on the shoulder and he wants it so bad.
Yes.
And that's the number one thing that I see in Josh Allen. And look, it's working out. But this national narrative, I'm just so tired of hearing it. The coaching staff is good. Look at what they did with Josh Allen. The coordinator's going to be a head coach. Buffalo has weapons now, so they're going to be good. Oh, yeah, and Jordan Palmer, he was good. No, it's time to give Josh Allen credit, right? He put the work in to get better every single offseason. He comes to work every single day, lays it on the line for his team. Josh needs credit. The Bills have good resources to develop a quarterback, but the quarterback has to take advantage of those. The national media just needs to recognize that Josh Allen is the real deal.
All right. Next, we're going to be joined by Mark Johnson from Raiders Wire and the Tape Don't Lie podcast, who's going to take us through some of the Raiders' defensive tendencies, strengths, and weaknesses that this upstart Bills offense is going to be facing this week. Let's take a look.
Right now, the biggest weakness for the Raiders is their run defense. They are allowing 163.7 yards per game rushing the football and allowed 250 yards to the Patriots the week before. What's wrong with the Raiders defense is that they really lack gap integrity right now and are missing a ton of tackles. They have missed 35 tackles on the season, which is only second to last to the terrible Jets. The Raiders have to get this fixed, or Devin Singletary is going to run all over them, as well as Zach Moss. But they are hoping that Nick Kwiatkowski comes back this week to clean up the run game when they had a great run defense during the first half of the game against Christian McCaffrey and controlled him throughout that first half, week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. A biggest change for the Raiders defense this year is they have switched from cover 6 to primarily cover 3. In cover 3, they're actually doing a very good job of coverage on the back end. They are allowing a completion percentage of 50%, which is best in the league according to Sports Info Solutions, when running cover 3. They're also allowing a passer rating of 59, which is 4th in the NFL with other teams who run cover 3. It has become a specialty for this defense, and it's allowed it to become more simple for a young secondary. Cover 6 is one of the most difficult coverages for teams to learn, and Paul Guenther did a good job of simplifying this coverage by running cover 3 and make it easier for his young DBs. It has allowed them to make plays, not think too much on the fly, and think really fast and play fast. A standout player for the Raiders defense has been Trayvon Mullen. He has been excellent in coverage and sticky in press man, which is one of his specialties. Last week, against the New England Patriots, he only allowed 1 catch on 4 targets and a passer rating of 39, which is basically the same as throwing the ball into the ground. He's excellent in zone as well and is looking like one of the smartest players on this Raiders defense. He's quickly becoming a better player every single week, and he's great at reading the field. Trayvon Mullen is excellent in the slot as well, as you'll see here against N'Keal Harry. Does a great job in press coverage in soft shoe.
All right, now that Eric, Mark, and all the guys have taken us through each of the matchups, potential tendencies, strengths, and weaknesses for the Raiders this week, try to keep it in mind when you're watching the Bills game. Can you pick out some of the things that we identified? Can you find those other matchups and opportunities to make you a little bit smarter of a fan watching the game? Thanks for checking out Cover 1, and we are out.